Runescape has implemented the majority of the updates on this PowerPoint slide. Strangely, one of the most requested updates on the slide, the weather update, hasn't actually made it into the live game yet. In this video, I'll talk about the weather update and its potential. Whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. The weather update is quite an old idea by now, as it was first revealed at RuneFest in 2016. Based on the picture you can see on screen, you might be thinking that the weather update would be purely cosmetic, and while that prospect would be appealing in itself, ModMark explicitly mentions that mimicking the weather outside wouldn't be all that interesting as it doesn't affect gameplay.
Now, weather for us wasn't just about sprinkling some snow on some roofs and showing off our new graphics engine. No. If it was going to be awesome, it had to do something spectacular. Yeah, we could do seasonal weather that mimics the weather outside of your window when you're playing the game if we wanted to, but it's really going to affect your gameplay.
And I have to agree, an update like this could be so much more than just snowy Lumbridge or rainy Lumbridge. In the RuneScape Reveals presentation, ModMark mentions a couple of potential possibilities of adding a weather system in RuneScape. The first example mentioned is a lightning storm where climbing to a high point and using an item like a lightning rod, you would be able to gather energy to use as a component for brand new spell. And while ModMark didn't go into detail, this could potentially reward experiencing a skill like runecrafting, or could be the introduction of a brand new spellbook. Tombs being revealed by sandstorms in RuneScape's desert biomes was the second example mentioned, and if you think about it, the idea could give birth to a large amount of content in the form of procedurally generated areas, similar to how the Ark works. These areas could be brand new dungeons in which certain creatures or new skilling nodes spawn, perhaps in higher frequencies or quantities than anywhere else to add some form of reward for putting effort into exploring them. Construction could be involved, similar to how Fort Firinfri works, where we have to support and reinforce certain beams and supports as to not have the tomb collapse, so that you can access these nodes or creatures for a longer period of time. It could also be a dungeoneering training method, or involve thieving as you have to break open locks to go deeper inside these tombs. In a similar fashion, something like a flash flood could bring new fishing opportunities to an area that previously had very little fishing potential. The example mentioned of typhoons bringing monsters to an area in which they were previously not located is the only example I kind of dislike. Monsters kind of need to fit the environment they're in, so it would make more sense to slap them in some kind of procedurally generated tomb instead of bringing creature A to place B. ModMark also presented the idea of performing shamanistic or shamanistic rain dances to create local, smaller versions of the weather to harness the effects of said weather without it being the season. The content potential around something as basic in principle as weather in RuneScape is an exciting thing to think about, although the implementation would likely be far from easy. Different types of weather and time cycles are already in RuneScape, so the mechanics of adding it visually shouldn't be all that hard. But I definitely think it would be time consuming to produce different seasonal versions of all the major cities and areas in RuneScape. I mean, RuneScape is big. Or I should say Gielinor is big. Moderators like Mod Blackwitch and Alex would have so much work on their hands. Yes, we've had Winter Prif and a Winter Grand Exchange. We've had different looking trees around certain RuneScape events like Halloween, Christmas, and Easter. The most obvious example is Plowing Farms, which does work in seasons that mimic the actual seasons around us unless you buy Seasonalizer to force a specific season to get certain breeds. Speaking of seasons and how quickly weather should change, I would hate for these temporary events or weather changes to feel like wilderness flash events or flash mob spawning. They would need to last longer than a day or a week to really feel like a season in my eyes. Now, I'm not oblivious. Creating a seasonal Gielinor is no small feat. In my eyes, it wouldn't need to happen all at once. In fact, I would probably prefer if that wasn't the case. It could be spread out in multiple updates to lessen the scope of the project, like Jagex is already doing with some updates. Alternatively, it could be applied to a more recently released area first, for example Anachronia, mainly to avoid clashing too much with spaghetti code, speeding up the project timeline. As much as I would love a seasonal Gielinor, perhaps creating a brand new island with the content ideas I just mentioned would be less risky. I mean, I adore the idea of a weather update, and I've said it in the past as well. I was thinking of things that Jagex talked about in the past but never actually made a reality, and this update popped into my head straight away. And the main reason I'm making this video is really to bring it back into the spotlight, to have people think and discuss about this update, because I think the weather update has so much potential. So please, if you've watched this video until the end, which probably isn't all that long, I'd kindly ask you to comment what you think of the weather update and what kind of content you imagine it could bring to RuneScape. Mods are active on the socials, and I do know that certain moderators watch my videos and read the comments, so perhaps they can take some ideas and possibly someday turn them into reality. On the other hand, you should know that this was a vision and probably just a concept and never even made it off the shelf to begin with in terms of production. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this short little video, and if you did, leave a like down below and maybe even consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.